What's this? Seriously, it's no wonder I couldn't help but exclaim. There in front of me were the words of a termination notice. I had been told not to contact during business trips, but this was something I couldn't ignore. I hurriedly called Jack. No answer. I called over and over. Simultaneously, I sent messages, but there was no response. It was past noon. Maybe he couldn't answer due to work, but I had to get in touch somehow. After persistently calling, he finally picked up. Hello, Jack. Don't you know not to contact me during work hours? Jack immediately started yelling. I'm sorry, but it's urgent. I've received a certified letter from the company. I told you not to contact me while I'm on a business trip. Jack was not willing to listen. What if your actions ruin the contract? It seemed impossible to get him to listen. All right. I decided to keep silent about the termination notice, as a result of not contacting at all. My name is Sarah Johnson, 30 years old. I work from home as an industrial designer. Simply put, as an industrial designer, I design the shapes of products. I used to be an employee of a major company working from home, but now I've become independent and freelance. Thankfully, my work is going well, and I'm earning a decent income. At 26, I married Jack, whom I met through a friend's introduction. Even after getting married, I continued to work for the company. But when I became pregnant with our 2-year-old son, Kyle, I switched to working from home. Since then, I've been working from home while Jack worked at the office. After maternity and parental leave, I returned to work from home. Although my salary was lower than when I was going to the office, it's easier on my mind and body than commuting and leaving the child in daycare. Our company created a great system. However, Jack seemed unsatisfied with my reduced salary. Shouldn't you go back to work, even if it means putting Kyle in daycare? We've got a mortgage to pay, and with the economy being down, the company's performance isn't looking up either. Well, that's true. But if we put Kyle in daycare, we have to pay for that too. I think it would end up costing about the same. When we got married, Jack and I took out a joint mortgage to buy our new home. Renting is like throwing money away. It's better to stretch a bit and buy a place. It'll be easier in the long run. Jack, who works at a securities company and is fussy about finance and assets, would argue. Convinced by his point, I agreed, and we bought the apartment, located near a convenient station for commuting. It was a bit pricey, but we were told it would appreciate in value. Life was peaceful until I started working from home. But then Jack began to show his discontent. It seemed it wasn't so much about the money, but rather he felt it was unfair that I was the only one staying at home. If the costs are going to be the same, you might as well go back to work. Staying home all the time leads to a lack of exercise and isolation from society. Sure, there's some truth to that, but with my first child birth and now child care, it's easier on my body to stay home. Getting help is difficult, as both Jack and I are from out of town, and our families live far away. We can't easily rely on either side for assistance. When I brought up this topic, I could sense Jack's real feelings from his muttered response. It's unfair that only Sarah gets to stay home. I wish I could too, but there's a difference in our jobs. I'm a designer and Jack is in sales. I can finish designs on my computer and just send the data. But Jack's work can't be done from home. That's true, but still, it feels unfair that only Sarah gets to enjoy this nice house, he complained. Hearing these words surprised me. What do you mean enjoy alone? This is our home. Yours, mine, and Kyle's. First of all, we're both paying the mortgage. The rights should be split equally. Jack's childish remarks made me worry if he was really okay. Even as a father, Kyle was growing up well, and I was managing both child care and work from home. I also took the bold step of becoming independent as my work was well received, and I started getting offers from business contacts. However, around that time, Jack began coming home late and working more on weekends. It's a tough economy. I've got to work harder, or my sales allowance will keep shrinking, he'd say with a sarcastic sigh. Lucky are those who can work comfortably at home. No need to endure crowded trains to commute, huh? Must be nice, he'd say, implying I was lounging at home while he worked hard. But that's not the case. I'm taking care of the child and household chores while working from home. I'd often have to go out for work and other necessities. I'm certainly not just lounging around at home. Fed up, I once confronted him. Look, I'm not just playing around. Why can't you understand that? I'm paying my share of the mortgage too. Oh, is that so? Jack interrupted, his face turning red with anger. I must be such a failure, huh? Can't even get a mortgage on my own with my meager salary. I never said anything like that. Unlike the talented designer that you are, I have to desperately plead with unpleasant clients every day just to get paid. It always felt like that. No matter what I said, Jack would only take things negatively. I got so tired and eventually stopped talking to him altogether. It seemed pointless to say anything, and gradually, I started to wonder if there was any point in living together. But Jack was Kyle's father. The thought of taking away his father seemed selfish, and that held me back. Maybe because I stopped talking, Jack started behaving even more selfishly and eventually almost stopped contributing financially. It was supposed to be a joint mortgage, but now it looks like I'm paying it all by myself. It's tough, but with my current income as a designer, I can manage the mortgage and living expenses on my own. Jack probably knows this, and that's why he's behaving like that. I think if we were at risk of losing the house because we couldn't pay the mortgage, he'd contribute something. Jack is that kind of calculative person. And around that time, I started to have a suspicion. Maybe Jack had another woman and was spending his money on her. If that's the case, I have no choice but to take a drastic step. Of course, I'd make sure he pays what he owes. I wanted to find proof, but I didn't know how. The most reliable way would be to hire a detective agency, but that's expensive. If I knew the dates, times, or places to look, it would be easier. But with just a vague suspicion, I had no idea how much it would cost. Right now, I'm managing, but if Jack and I were to separate, there'd be future uncertainties. I'd prefer to save as much money as possible. Then one day, while I was feeling uneasy, a certified mail from the company arrived. Jack was on a business trip and had been gone for 2 nights and 3 days. Why would they send something like this on a day he's away? I was even more perplexed but curious. So I decided to open it, telling myself that if it was urgent, I needed to contact him immediately. I opened the envelope. What the heck is this? I couldn't help but exclaim. It was a termination notice. I was told not to contact Jack during business trips, but I couldn't just ignore this. I tried calling him, no answer. I called again and again. I sent messages too, but got no response. It was past noon. Maybe he couldn't answer because of work, but I had to get through to him. When I kept calling persistently, he finally answered. Hello, Jack. I told you not to contact me when I'm working. Jack yelled as soon as he answered. I'm sorry, but it's urgent. You see, there's this certified mail from the company. Don't contact me when I'm on a business trip. Jack wouldn't listen at all. What if you ruin a contract because of this? As he said that, I heard someone's voice in the background. Could it be? I quickly pressed the record button. Listen, I'll say it again. Don't contact me. Got it? He wouldn't listen, no matter how important it was. Okay. I decided to keep quiet about the termination notice. I ended the call. Jack was the one who didn't listen, even though it was important, and I realized that even if Jack lost his job, it wouldn't affect me much. I'm a designer with a technical skill set steadily building my career. When I started working from home, I was an employee. As an employee, I had to report daily to the company how many hours I worked and such. I needed to inform them even when I took a day off. But now, I'm independent, handling work not just from my former company, but also from other clients. I'm completely freelance. Since becoming freelance, I've been taking on a lot more work and earning several times more than when I was an employee. I could leave Jack and be just fine, but still, it would be a shame to end it like this. That call, I think the voice was a woman's. Listening carefully to the recording, I could make out what was being said. The woman didn't realize I was on the phone and was asking Jack for something. I couldn't hear exactly what it was, but she was asking for something for her birthday. Her birthday must be coming up soon. This could be a clue to finding out who Jack's with. If I can narrow down the hints a bit more, I'll consider hiring a detective. For now, I just have to be patient. The next night, Jack returned from his business trip. You know I told you not to contact me during work, right? Because of you, I almost lost a contract. I'm sorry. I wondered who he was in the middle of making a contract with. Perhaps it was a birthday purchase agreement. I smiled to myself, not showing it on my face. If you understand it, it's fine. I'm going to take a bath and go to bed, okay? I quietly watched as Jack prepared for his bath in bed. Once he was sound asleep, I stealthily checked his smartphone. As expected, it was locked. I gently took the phone, used Jack's sleeping finger to unlock it, and began to search. There they were, photos of Jack cozied up with the same woman. Not just pictures, but videos too. Some of them incriminating messages, dates, places, how they spent their time together. Everything was there. He probably thought I'd never find out about his affair. How he underestimated me. I copied the data from his phone to my computer, carefully putting the phone back. I started to plan my next move. I'll make sure he experiences hell first. To uncover the identity of the woman, I couldn't tell who she was just from the photos and chats. I reviewed the data and decided to start from there. The next day, Jack left the house as if nothing had happened. He said he was going to work, but I hoped he could still do his job as usual. After sending him off, I revisited the certified mail. It lacked detailed explanations. I didn't know what he did, but it seemed his termination was final. It was a bit troubling. If Jack lost his job, it'd be harder to make him pay alimony and child support. You can't shake down a turnip. He probably spent what he didn't bring home on that woman. I wanted to recoup at least some of it. Of course, I planned to make her pay damages too. I scrutinized the data transferred to my computer. It was unpleasant to see their intimate exchanges, but I was sure to find some clue. Social media platforms typically require a phone number for user registration. When I checked, there it was, a contact listed as Kate, trading in Jack's phone. Apparently, his mistress. Whether Kate was her real name, I wasn't sure. I picked out the necessary information and compiled the data. Now, what to do with this data? Should I hire a detective or go straight to a lawyer? Thinking it over, I had a great idea, something I saw in a melodramatic TV show. I decided to play it out myself. Hey, I think I need to go back to my parents' place for a bit. Why? It's nothing serious, but my mom's caught a bad cold, and my dad can't manage everything alone. Jack glanced at me, pretending to think it over. Probably thought it looked better not to agree too quickly. How many days are you planning to be there? At least 2 or 3 days, I replied, looking up at him as if seeking approval. Jack looked down at me, seemingly pleased with my meek behavior, and his face softened into a smile. That's being a good daughter. Go ahead. Thank you. My demeanor seemed to satisfy him. So when are you leaving? I wanted to leave today, but it's too late now, so I'll leave first thing tomorrow morning, right after you go to work. Okay, got it. Take care. Jack was unnaturally kind, probably playing into my plan. The next morning, as usual, he left the house. Despite being told he's fired, I wondered where he was going, but I needed him out to prepare, so please go ahead. I sent him off with a regretful look and got to work. I left Kyle with a trustworthy babysitter, someone who had taken care of him several times before for work and errands. I could rely on them without worry. Then I messaged Jack. I'm on the train now. Really sorry for the trouble. Planning to be back in 3 days. He replied quickly. Understood. Take care. That night, as expected, Jack brought Kate home. I hired professionals to gather all the evidence of their rendezvous. I knew the data already on Jack's smartphone would be enough for a favorable divorce, but I wanted to personally punish them both. On the first day of the trap, Jack and Kate returned home in the afternoon and didn't leave until the next evening. Then came the main event. I was a bit anxious waiting, not knowing what time they'd return, but I was sure they would. Late that night, just before the date changed, they came back. They seemed tipsy, giggling, and stumbling into the bedroom, falling on the bed tangled together. Now, welcome home. As I finished speaking, I flung open the closet door with a loud bang. Kate screamed in shock and tumbled out of the bed. In the process, she hit her head against the cabinet beside the bed. Serves her right. What? Jack hadn't fallen off the bed, but he was frozen in a bizarre position on it. He was lying on his back, arms thrust forward from his chest. It seemed he was so startled by my appearance that he accidentally pushed Kate away. That's why she flew off the bed and hit her head. Welcome home, dear. Jack lay there in his strange pose, eyes wide open, staring at me. He looked utterly ridiculous. Oh, we have a guest, I remarked as I slowly emerged from the closet and stood beside the bed, looking down at Jack with a full smile. I ignored the woman who had lost consciousness. You, who is this lady? It's quite rude to sleep in someone else's house like this. Jack was at a loss for words. Well, that's okay. Let's have a little chat, I said, pulling out my phone to make a call. Who are you calling? Oh, just someone, I replied, humming a tune as I ended the call and coldly looked down at Kate. What should we do with her? What do you mean? What should we, wake her up or let her sleep? Jack glanced back and forth between me and Kate, falling silent in apparent confusion. All right then, we don't want anything to happen to her, so let's wake her up. Hey you, I said, shaking Kate gently. Kate groaned and slowly opened her eyes. Hey you, I repeated. Kate looked dazed for a moment before realizing her situation and freezing in shock. We're going to have a talk now, so come over here, please. Kate remained frozen and didn't respond. Come here, please. Yes, she replied reflexively after I spoke a bit more sternly. I called both of them to the dining room and had them sit side by side at the table. I really don't want to have you sitting here, but well, you've already made yourself comfortable, haven't you? The table will do, I said, making it clear there would be no hospitality like tea. Now, I want you to answer some questions. If you're honest, I might consider certain things, like maybe reducing the damages. You will the word damages turned their faces pale. So, when did it start? What? When did the two of you start this relationship? Be honest, or the damn damages will double. Jack's eyes darted around nervously, and Kate just kept blinking rapidly. Since when? Today. Today was the first time, right? Yes. A lot, really. Yes, we met today for the first time, and since you weren't here, we just got carried away. Yes, they both said, seemingly agreeing on the story. That's a lie. Ding dong. The people I had called arrived. I asked Jack and Kate to wait while I let my guests in the dining room. Two professionals, a man and a woman in suits, entered. Please, the woman took out an envelope, and the man opened his laptop. Here, take a look. The screen showed yesterday's footage of Jack and Kate entering the room, followed by the interior video. Hey, isn't this illegal filming? That's right, it's a crime, they protested while Jack and Kate were making a fuss. The detective agency explained everything properly. Indeed, secretly filming someone is voyeurism, but if it's for the purpose of catching evidence of infidelity, it's allowed. Moreover, this was a job undertaken by professionals, meaning the detectives from the agency following a request. Therefore, it doesn't constitute a criminal act. Got it. So this isn't a crime. Both Jack and Kate sat silently, heads bowed. Once again, when did it start? They didn't answer. Since when? You said today was the first time, but that's a lie, right? Well, yesterday, Jack began, raising his head to meet my eyes. I'm sorry. What I said earlier, it actually started yesterday. We drank too much, and one thing led to another. Yes, I'm sorry, they both apologized. So, you admit to the affair? Yes, we're sorry. but it was just this once. Sorry, it's true. It seemed they were trying to settle the matter with this version of the story. I told you before, if you lie, the damages will double. It's not a lie. Believe us, it's true. I brought over my laptop and placed it in front of them. If yesterday was the first time, then who are these people? I asked, showing them the photos and videos copied from Jack's smartphone, along with their social media interactions. Ah, another lie. You're taking stuff from someone's smartphone. That's a crime. Sorry to disappoint you, but this also isn't a crime. You heard the reason just now, right? Jack and Kate had nothing more to say and just sat in silence. Eventually, they resigned themselves to telling the whole story. Their affair had started 2 years ago, around the time Kyle was born. Jack said he felt neglected and lonely after Kyle's birth and listed various reasons for his actions. That's when he met Kate, and their relationship continued until now. He described it as a momentary lapse of judgment and expressed regret. Kate looked at Jack with disbelief. Understandably so. She had been showered with sweet words all this time, only to be now referred to as a mistake. Kate, with tears in her eyes, admitted the time they started their relationship, but remained silent about the rest. It seemed futile to ask anything more. I'll arrange another day to talk with both your parents and Kate's parents. I thanked the detectives, sent them away, and also showed Kate out. Could you? You leave too. Maybe stay at a hotel or something. You might catch up with Kate if you're quick. I wouldn't do such a thing. Whatever, just leave. I made sure to send Jack out as well. Later, I arranged a meeting with both our parents and Jack's. My in-laws were mortified, just kept apologizing. My parents sat in silent anger. I showed them all the evidence, including the conversation from the day I caught. So, I want a divorce. I'll take custody of Kyle and demand child support and damages. Jack protested the amount I demanded, but I refused to budge. You've been deceiving me for 2 years and brought another woman into this house. Plus, you stopped contributing to the household expenses. My in-laws were shocked to hear this for the first time. My father-in-law even tried to hit Jack, but I stopped him. I don't want to see that. If you're going to do it, please do it where I can't see. My in-laws promised to cover the damages and child support. Regarding the apartment, I decided to take payment for my share of the mortgage up until now and then leave the rest to Jack. I don't want to live in a tainted house. Just pay me my share and then do whatever you want with it. It would probably end up being sold, but selling it now would only result in a loss. Jack had no capacity to keep up with the mortgage payments. It was unavoidable. I found out why Jack was fired from his company. He had caused significant losses to a client. Not just once, but multiple times. I thought it would definitely be profitable, but every single transaction I thought was surefire turned out badly. Jack explained he felt overshadowed by my success after I became independent and started earning more. In an attempt to outdo me, Jack did something he shouldn't have, making unauthorized stock trades for his clients, causing them losses. Trying to fill the gap he created, he kept repeating the same mistakes, and things became unmanageable. Yet he believed he would surely recover the losses someday, which is why he couldn't stop. Unaware that his company had caught on, he used his time with Kate to distract himself. That day, he had lied to the company, saying I was sick and he needed to care for me. Who would think they'd send a termination notice to a house with a sick person? Who's really being unreasonable here? It's hard to believe such words are coming from someone who lied to take time off work and go on a trip with another woman. Under these circumstances, the reason for his affair after Kyle was born, you stopped paying attention to me. That's to be expected when there's a baby. Even taking care of oneself becomes secondary, let alone catering to a grown man's needs like a child. Tired and unamused by my constant attention to Kyle, he met Kate at a bar and was drawn to her. Kate was young and pretty, and she listened to everything I said with interest. He regained the confidence he had lost. They started a deeper relationship after celebrating her 20th birthday. Kate was 19 when they first met. I bought Kate anything she wanted. Her asking for things was cute. Sarah, you earn enough to buy whatever you want, so you never ask me for anything. To fulfill Kate's wishes, he stopped contributing financially to our home. The apartment has always been your place. I just slept there, so I thought it was fair for you to pay for it. I remembered him saying that. Sarah, if you became a company employee again, you'd only be home for the same amount of time. Then it would be equal. So that's why he wanted me to stop working from home and commute instead. It's truly exasperating, the excuses Jack kept coming up with. None of them made any sense, no matter how I looked at it, but he blamed it all on me. If only Sarah had continued working like before and supported me, none of this would have happened, he said. Hearing these words, even my father-in-law broke down in tears. It was just pitiful, but that's no longer my concern. Because they paid the amount I wanted doesn't mean my wounds are healed or that I can forgive them. But they agreed to pay the damages and child support for Kyle that I demanded, so I have to accept it as good enough. I also demanded separate damages from Kate. Thankfully, her parents were responsible and paid everything on her behalf. I had said that lies would cost double, but I decided against it. I have my principles. I settled the matter within those bounds. I'm sorry, Kate apologized, appearing before me with her parents, looking completely different from the drunken Kate I had seen before. She honestly talked about her past. Kate, originally from a rural area, was astonished by the stark difference when she came to the city. Her college classmates all seemed fashionable, flashy, and dazzling. Trying to keep up, she started working at a bar. That's where I met Jack. He said he wasn't getting along with his wife, that they were about to divorce. It was just taking time because of the child. I believed him. Kate seemed to have genuinely loved Jack. Jack was handsome and well-paid. He bought me anything I asked for. I was happy that he listened to everything I said. That day, Jack had brought Kate to the apartment, saying they would soon live there together once I was gone. It seems he wanted to save on hotel costs, but Kate believed him. I thought we would soon live together here, and it made me happy. But then Jack referred to me as just a momentary lapse, Kate said with tears in her eyes. That's when I realized I was just being played. Her demeanor didn't seem deceitful, but I won't say I was deceived. I knew he was married and still got involved. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Kate and her parents apologized together. The truth is unclear. Perhaps Jack did have genuine feelings for Kate at some point. However, in the end, he chose to prioritize his interests. It seems that his understanding of the situation was ultimately shallow. He's someone who selfishly acts on whims, just like a child relying on his wife, then feeling neglected and unappreciated. Kate would be better off forgetting about such a man. Kate has since quit college and returned to the countryside with her parents to start over. I'll work and pay back what my parents covered as soon as possible. Although I once despised her, I now hope she finds a straight path in life and happiness. Afterward, Jack was fired from his company and sued for the losses he couldn't cover. That was expected. He lied to the company to take time off and was caught embezzling for his escapades. It wasn't just causing losses to clients. He used that money for personal enjoyment, which led to his judgment. Though he received a suspended sentence, his future is uncertain. I feel sorry for my in-laws, who were good people, but it was a deserved outcome. I've returned to my parents' home, where they help me with Kyle while I continue working. Despite the personal turmoil, my career is going well. Kyle's growth is now my sole comfort. For now, I think I don't need a man in my life, but like Kate, who's gone back to start anew, I too hope to meet someone truly trustworthy someday. I believe there's still someone good out there for me. Life is still long. It's too long to stumble over a single failure and give up. I want to show Kyle a forward-looking, resilient spirit, never to become someone who loses everything due to childish dependency like his father. For that reason, I will keep looking ahead, hold my head high, and keep walking. I will never give up on any happiness.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. "Meetings should be for employees only." Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. "Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company?" Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. "Let's just move on." Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company?" "We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs." gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.